Interview me in the middle of a bar, drunk out my mind after the Packers have just lifted the Lombardi.
So I'm delighted to be joined by the man, the myth, the legend that is Ryan Conway. Ryan Conway, how are you?
You're too kind, Ben. You're too kind. Yeah, I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. How are you?
Yeah, not keeping well. That was my next question. I suppose it's a new how are you, isn't it? How is lockdown? How's it treating you?
Yeah, not bad at all. I'm very fortunate that I can still work full time from home. Um, so I've not been placed on furlough or anything like that. So I'm incredibly fortunate for that. And that has helped me keep quite a lot of perspective, actually.
Mm.
There's a lot going on in the world right now, and people struggling, and so yeah, the fact that I'm like, look, I can still comfortably pay my bills, I can still get my shopping in, and yeah, it's just that has really really helped keeping that perspective. So I'm doing all right, man.
Well, that's good to hear. On the work front, people that don't know, obviously you work for the Athletic. So are you literally just in a full-time position still during lockdown?
Yeah. Just because football matches are not being played, that doesn't mean we don't stop the work.
And of course, being a Derby County reporter, your work certainly never stops.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been interesting. Even in lockdown, we're finding stuff to write about Mason Bennett being very silly recently.
Yeah.
So yeah, that you just have to get a little bit more creative. And any interviews with any recent, footballers that were recently at Derby or still at Derby, you try and hope they're a little more gettable.
Yes. Yeah.
Bored out of their minds.
So in terms of, well, we'll stick with lockdown for now, because obviously the reason you being here, apart from being a brilliant journalist, we'll say, you are. Don't laugh at yourself like that. You are obviously a Green Bay Packers fan. However, we'll start with the NFL in general. Obviously, you've touched on football and everything that's happening in lockdown. So the Bundesliga, for example, the German Football League, is starting as of next week, which obviously behind closed doors still. The NFL, where do you think that lies within this? The season doesn't start until September, but do you think it will go ahead as normal?
I think they're planning for it to go ahead as normal, even if that means that the stands are empty. There's been no news that they will cancel the season, which, in the NFL just puts its head down and sort of bores forward. So at the minute, yes, it is likely to continue, but as scheduled, but with sort of a lot of compromise. Training camp will be the interesting one.
Yeah,
that's due to start in July. So a couple of months from now, that's the interesting one. How they get through camp, if they'll be allowed to actually physically go in, or if it'll be a more virtual thing, like the voluntary workouts that they're doing at the minute are all on Zoom.
Germany have got it under control brilliantly, hence why the Bundesliga is going ahead. However, with America being hit that hard, I know they're obviously planning for it to go ahead, but can you see it not going ahead?
I honestly can't. I honestly can't see a scenario where the 2020 NFL season is cancelled. And I'm basing that off no inside information. I'm not basing that anything on just my gut feeling. I just cannot see a scenario where we are waiting essentially sort of 2 years to get the NFL rolling again. My feeling is that they will be continuing.
Is that with or without fans?
Regardless, yeah. My feeling is that they'll be continuing regardless of what happens between now and September.
What's your opinion on that? As well as in the NFL as well. The other sports, obviously, Bundesliga starting behind closed doors. If the NFL starts behind closed doors, what's your opinion on sports without fans in the stadium? Like, are you for that if it means sport going ahead, or?
Yeah, look, first and foremost, people's safety has to be considered. if we're in an environment where there is still a lot of danger around starting games, then I'm massively for halting the NFL. If, you know, we're still in this time of thousands, hundreds into the thousands dying every day, the numbers still going up. You know, if that is the case, then, you know, human life comes before entertainment, and for me, the NFL is entertainment. For every fan, the NFL is entertainment. Human life has to come before that. There is no way to justify it any other way than if there is serious danger to people's health. You cannot press forward.
I think you bang on with that, and I think it's a case of we can't really say any more than that, either of us, as of now, because it's just going to be a case of wait and see. So it was obviously just interesting to get your opinion on that, but neither of us are going to know any more until that time comes, I suppose. So let's move on to your Packers. You've been very vocal about Green Bay recently, I've noticed. I mean, you're always very vocal about Green Bay on Twitter, which is, I always get a laugh out of your tweets if you get angry about what Green Bay are doing. Let's start with the draft. So, in fact, before I even say anything, just give me your overall opinion of your Green Bay Packers draft.
I was stunned that they took Jordan Love. I was not upset with the pick. I was just very surprised at it, which I think any NFL fan would be. You drafting you were basically, the Packers were basically saying this will be the guy to continue after Aaron Rodgers has gone. And with that, it also meant that, oh wow, we are now slowly starting to prepare for life without Aaron Rodgers being a Green Bay Packer. That was the shock. I don't think the Packers needed to trade up to get Love. And I've read nothing credible to suggest that any team was looking to go up and above them to get Jordan Love. But I don't hate the pick. The worst time to be looking for a quarterback is when you need a quarterback. Yeah. Jordan Love can sit for 2 years, 3 years, and learn from Rodgers. And that is the ideal scenario.
Yeah.
Drafting AJ Dillon in the second, drafting, sort of fullback come tight end in the third, and then all these linemen. Again, I'm not really against it. The rage was that the Packers didn't get Aaron Rodgers any help, but that's simply not true. If the Packers have a more diverse running game, that's help. That helps Aaron Rodgers. If the Packers have more depth offensive line, which means he can stay upright, well, that helps Aaron Rodgers. I just didn't understand the narrative. Just, they didn't draft a receiver. Fine. That's a perfectly legitimate qualm to have. But that doesn't mean that they didn't get any help. And they're transitioning into what they want Matt LaFleur's offense to truly look like, which will be, hopefully a more diverse running game and a better play action game. To me, isn't a bad thing. It also must be said that they helped Aaron Rodgers by loading up the defense last year. That helps. That is help. Just because he isn't throwing passes to them, that doesn't mean that they're not helping. Him not having to score 30 points a game is help. They only had to score 10 points against Chicago in week 1 because the defense was lights out. They had to do the same against the Vikings in week 2. Getting Zadarius Smith, getting Preston Smith, Adrian Amos, that also helps. So for me, it was a weird draft, sure, but I don't hate it.
I think that's an extremely clean take on the. I don't think I've heard a better take from a Green Bay fan in terms of this draft, which is it's a compliment to you there, because a lot of obviously you'll have seen yourself. I think, to put it broadly, NFL fans They are worse than footballers. Soccer. They are worse than soccer fans for moaning. If someone doesn't like something in the NFL, like Rams Twitter feed. I'm a Rams fan, so Rams Twitter feed. We didn't pick any offensive linemen, so their Twitter feed was absolutely getting hammered. Why aren't you picking this? Why aren't you picking that? As yours was for. Why aren't you taking a wide receiver? Why aren't you taking a wide receiver?
I had to stay off Twitter for a couple of days, like sort of going through the draft, because it was just the takes were relentless on what the Packers were doing. And here's the thing with the draft: there is no such thing as a sure thing. So all of these takes, outside of very smart people who know the game and report on the game, who are very good at scheme and fit and talent evaluation, outside of that, we're just guessing wildly. We have no idea what Joe Burrow will be, and he was the first overall pick.
Yeah.
The classic cliche of Tom Brady being the 199th overall selection. No one knew that Tom Brady was going to be Tom Brady. No one knows. So yeah, it was. The takes get tiresome.
Yeah.
But fans are emotionally invested in their teams, and if they don't absolutely smash the draft out of the park based on grades and draft takes and this, that, and the other, then that must mean they've had the worst draft of all time. And let's look forward to 4 and 12. It just doesn't really work like that. And for the Packers, they are pretty decent luck picking in the mid-rounds. Like Mike Daniels is not with the team anymore, but he was like a 4th-round pick. He turned out to be a very, very good servant for the Packers. David Bakhtiari is a 4th-round pick. He might be the best left tackle in the NFL. Adams is a 2nd-round pick. You look across. Aaron Jones was a day 3 pick.
He come on leaps and bounds for you last year, Aaron Jones.
He was excellent. He was excellent, and he showed that in his in McCarthy's last year that he could do it. It was infuriating to watch him be used so little. But he's a really, really good running back. Where the Packers have really not done well in the last few years has been those high round picks. Demarius Randall, Quentin Rollins, Nick Perry, those kind of picks. They're the ones that have burned us. 2nd, 3rd, 4th round picks, we've generally done okay.
Yeah, I think it's like you said. Well, we'll go back to on the draft itself, because you've near enough answered everything that I wanted you to answer about you've gone into that much depth about it. But in terms of, there's always a big thing. Is it, so we say now, Matt LaFleur's Green Bay Packers, or is it Aaron Rodgers' Green Bay Packers? You'll have seen the rumours yourself about Aaron Rodgers not being happy recently. Do you think that's all media nonsense, or yeah, basically?
I mean, yeah, this Matt LaFleur has plans on being here a lot longer than Aaron Rodgers is here. That's just because LaFleur is at the start of his head coaching career and Aaron Rodgers is on the back 9 of his playing career. Mm-hmm. Now, LaFleur and General Manager Brian Gutekunst have a responsibility to ensure the longevity of the Green Bay Packers. There will, whether any Packers fan likes it or not, there will be life after Aaron Rodgers, and that could come very soon. They have a responsibility to the franchise to ensure that a plan is in place. That's not a bad thing. On the question of is it LaFleur's Packers or is it Rodgers' Packers, well, you can't go handing player power to, because then where does it stop? It has to be the GM and the head coach. It's as simple as that. The taker, they owe it to Rodgers to go and get help, or owe it to Rodgers to go all in for a Super Bowl. Well, I mean, yeah, I guess you owe it to all your players to do that, not just Aaron Rodgers. You owe it to every single person on your roster. You owe it to Devontae Adams, to Bakhtiari, to Billy Turner, to Kenny Clark. It's not just about Aaron Rodgers, and I think that's a very selfish take from a lot from the outside, that it is all about Aaron Rodgers. because it isn't 52, 54. How I think they expanded the active roster in the latest CBA, but it's a team game. You will need everyone on that team to win a Super Bowl. It's not just about Aaron Rodgers.
I think you put it perfectly in a very sensical way, not a nonsensical way like a lot you do see online. Actually, yes, we'll swiftly move away from Aaron Rodgers and that side of the draft and go back to last season. 13-3 Green Bay Packers last season. What are your predictions going into the next?
Yeah, the 13-3 was great. People argue that it was the worst 13-3 season in history, which means absolutely nothing. That take is as tiresome as all the recent ones. How can you be the worst 13-3 team? You were lucky in games here. You held on here. That just means you win ugly. That's not luck. This team consistently found a way. That isn't luck. Because eventually, if you are a lucky team, your luck runs out. They were clobbered by the Niners, who were just a much better team. They lost in Philly. They lost in Green Bay against Philly. That game was very good. They got run all over. And Philly's a good team. They're a well-coached team. They've got good players. Being clobbered against the Chargers was not great, but their defense might be the best in the NFL. None of what they achieved was luck. They smothered the Vikings, in both games. Beat the Raiders by capitalising on a Derek Carr fumble, and that basically ended it as a contest. The Derek Carr fumbles out of the end zone, and I think that was to bring the Raiders level or within 3. The Packers, he fumbles it out the end zone for a touchback. The Packers get the ball back, get a touchdown, and then they got the ball to start the second half and get a touchdown, and that basically ends it as a contest. That's not luck. That's you can either attribute that to Derek Carr making a bonehead decision, the offense capitalising on that, but it's not luck. I disregard the tape that they were lucky, and also they beat Seattle in the playoffs. You could argue they were dinged up, but they're still Seattle. Nothing to me about that was luck. They were just not at the level of the 49ers, and very few teams were.
Yeah.
With regards to this season,
very early take, I know, but
yeah, it is. My early take is that the stretch coming out of the bye week that could define the Packers season, because after the bye week, they're at Tampa, they're at Houston, they've then got a home game against the Vikings. On a short week, they then go to the Niners before welcoming the Jags at home and then go into Indianapolis. Now that's 4 of 6 on the road with a home game against the Vikings sandwiched in. That is a critical stretch. And then sort of once you get past that Colts game, they've got the Bears at home, the Eagles at home. They go on the road to the Lions. They've got the Panthers at home, the Titans at home, and on the road to the Bears. It's hardly murderer's row. Those games against the Panthers and Titans will be interesting because they're teams that really, really like to run the ball. Derrick Henry and McCaffrey could have a field day. But, a lot to shake out because you don't know the state of those teams heading into December. It's 6 months away. But that 6-game stretch coming out of the bye will be really, really critical. Opening up against Minnesota at Minnesota, that's a big early game because for me, Minnesota will be the ones that challenge the Packers for the division, and getting a tiebreaker so early, it could be vital.
I don't know if it's just it was a thing last year, but you seem to have the number. I think definitely on the second occasion you played them last year, I was all for Vikings. I thought you was on a bit of a decline, and I thought Vikings are going to win this. and you don't. You seem to have the number every time. So
I tell you what is fascinating about that game is for the first half, Green Bay were horrific. They were absolutely dreadful on offense. Aaron Rodgers gets picked. I think they fumble the ball twice and lose both of them. Aaron Jones on the first drive fumbles the ball. The Packers were awful in that first half. The defense was absolutely outstanding. Zadarius Smith, Preston Smith, Kenny Clark all up front causing chaos all day. The coverage was really, really good. I mean, Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen, they're going to get some wins. But by and large, I thought the coverage was, the pass defense was very good. They didn't have Dalvin Cook or the second running back, his name escapes me. So they were basically down to the third string running back. That did help. But if you're the Vikings and the Packers have got 3 turnovers in the first half, I mean, you've got to be out of sight at that point.
Yeah.
You've got to be putting the Packers under the cosh. At least you want from 3 turnovers to give you good field position as well. You want minimum 17 points.
Yeah,
but they didn't get it, and so and again that's not luck. That's great Packers defense and great grit on offense to eventually work through those early turnovers, because it would have been easy to just been like, oh man, let's put this in the bin and go again next week. But they found some rhythm in the running game, some in the passing game. I mean, Devontae Adams cooked Xavier Rhodes. That was a really, really gritty win. If they can replicate that, and the Vikings don't have Stephon Diggs. They drafted Jefferson in the first round, but you're asking him to come in and replace Stephon Diggs. That's a big ask. This week 1 game will be very, very interesting.
Give me a number then. You've seen the schedule today. What do you reckon?
Way too early prediction on the schedule. Ooh, 11-5.
11 is that and winning the division then?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and I think. I mean, I think 11-5 wins the division, but I think in a loaded NFC, 10-win teams are going to miss the postseason. You're going to need 11 wins to get a wild card. So I think 11-5 may be the floor for what playoff teams have to be, because this NFC is absolutely loaded. You look at the Packers, you look at the Vikings, you look at the Saints, the Tampa Bay Bucks could be very good this year. They could also be awful, but they could be very good. Dallas in the NFC East looks loaded. That team looks absolutely loaded on offense, and obviously with Mike McCarthy there now, we'll see what the new Mike McCarthy and what his sort of new variation on his offense looks like. And even in that division, Philadelphia is still going to be very good. The Panthers loaded up on offense. They got Teddy Bridgewater, Robbie Anderson. They've just paid McCaffrey. This NFC is absolutely loaded. A very, very good team is going to miss the playoffs.
Well, Rams missed it last year on 9, didn't they? And that's...
I mean, come on.
No.
9 wins. 9. You're a teams a shade over 500. They're not a very good team. I mean, I really fear for the Rams this year. This could be a bad year to be an LA Rams fan. 8-8 types. I mean, 8-8, 7-9 type year. I mean, we're going to find out this year what Jared Goff is. They've got rid of Todd Gurley, they've got rid of Brandon Cooks, and they're still paying for those guys. They're still paying big money for those guys. But they cut Gurley because they clearly didn't believe in his health. They traded Cooks because they needed draft capital because they had hardly any. The offensive line is a bit of a turnstile. And this is because I'm sick and I hate you. But my absolute sort of soap opera scenario is the Rams go 6-10 and Aaron Donald demands a trade.
Right, we'll escape this conversation ASAP. And I was actually getting to the end of the interview anyway. I've not just got really annoyed with you as this has gone on. But let's end on a lighter note for both of us now. I want to hit you with some quick fire questions and see what you reckon, if that's all right.
Yes.
Right, so extremely early takes. You've had them on the Green Bay Packers. So I'm just going to hit you with, for you, worst record in the NFL. Who's getting number 1 pick next year?
That's a good question. I tell you what, I won't give you the number 1 pick, but I think the Texans could be picking in the top 5.
Okay,
I think that's a team that Deshaun Watson will provide an awful lot of magic this year, and he's a great quarterback. But I still think the Texans will be a bad football team this year.
To be fair, I've had the same. They don't seem to have an identity, the Texans. Like, there's no one person within the organisation seems to be pulling in the same direction. They all seem to be going different directions, and that's...
I mean, Bill O'Brien is head coach and the GM, and it's pretty clear that he has large flaws in both those. I mean, if you cannot get a first-round pick for DeAndre Hopkins, then I'd suggest you really shouldn't be doing that job.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
and not only to not get a first, I mean, they got a second, but they also took on David Johnson, an injury-prone running back, and his large contract. I mean, had they just waited, they could have picked up Devonta Freeman or Todd Gurley off for nothing. Yeah, I think this team will be very, very bad, and that's a shame because J.J. Watt, Deshaun Watson, they're absolutely great. I still think Duke Johnson gets underused as a running back. I really think they could be picking in the top 5 this year.
Okay, sorry, Texans fans. Super Bowl winner, flip side.
Green Bay Packers.
No, a serious Super Bowl winner, please.
The Green Bay Packers.
Genuinely, a genuine belief.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take it. I'll take that, and so will a lot of Green Bay fans, including my friend who will be listening to this later on, who's a Green Bay fan. League MVP.
Ooh, tough one. Now, I think Aaron Rodgers could be, but because I think that I'm buying into this narrative of he is either going to shred the league and be the MVP, or he's going to show another season of slight decline to back up the floor. And I think they're the two narratives that you sort of tend to fall in. So it wouldn't surprise me if Rodgers had a third MVP year, but I mean, Patrick Mahomes, I think had, and this is no disrespect to Lamar Jackson, he, unanimous MVP, deserved unanimous MVP. I do wonder how close that would have been had Mahomes played a full 16.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But yeah, for me, I think Patrick Mahomes will get his second MVP.
Okay, that's again it's a pretty solid shout. I think Mahomes is safe now in terms of he's probably never going to have a bad season because he's just a brilliant player. Okay, your surprise package, whether that's your surprise package as a team and as a player. So who do you think your a surprise player, standout player is going to be this year, and the surprise team?
Surprise team. Surprise player. I think Teddy Bridgewater could be very good this year.
Okay.
I mean, he is very good. That's why the Panthers paid him as such. But I think he will have a very, very nice year in Carolina. They've surrounded him with good weapons. He's healthy. And Teddy Bridgewater is just somebody I root for. Such a good dude. Everything you hear about him, you see about him, he's just a great guy. So yeah, I think he'll have a very, very good year. Not MVP, but a year that we all look at and go, oh, okay, that's a pleasant surprise. We didn't expect Teddy to ball like that. I think him. Surprise team. I think the Raiders could be good this year. I think the Raiders could be good. They're not going to win that division because Kansas City.
Yeah.
In fact, no. I'm staying in the same division. The Denver Broncos.
Oh, yeah, yes, I like that. I like that shout.
Absolutely love this offense on paper. I mean, Cortland Sutton, I think he's going to be a star at receiver. I think Drew Lock he won 4 of his 5 starts. I think he went 4-1.
He was very good when he came in, to be fair, Drew Lock.
Yeah, they've just got Melvin Gordon, who I think is a very good but not great running back. I really, really like this offense.
They drafted Jerry Jeudy as well, didn't they? So...
Yes, they did, and he fell in their lap. I think the Broncos could take. That division, that AFC West is going to be competitive. But yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all for the Broncos to sneak a wild card.
I like that. I do. I like that shout. Mainly because that was kind of my shout as well for it, just because I love Jerry Jeudy for one, and that Cortland Sutton, brilliant player. I think offensively, I'm not sure defensively, but offensively they'll be a fun team to watch next year. Same kind of thing. Who's your rookie? Big rookie to look out for aside from your obvious Joe Burrow.
CeeDee Lamb at Dallas. I think opposite Amari Cooper, regardless of if it's Dak or Andy Dalton at quarterback. I think CeeDee Lamb could be could have a very, very good season as a rookie. Amari Cooper is going to have the coverage rolled his way, which would basically leave Lamb with one-on-ones. I think he could have a very, very nice... It wouldn't surprise me if Dallas had a pair of 1,000-yard receivers at all.
Yeah, I think he was another one that kind of fell nicely into the lap, wasn't he? And not a bad player to fall into your lap, especially when you've got targets already like Amari Cooper. So,
yeah, I will say, from a Packers perspective, Josler Degora, the tight end come fullback that we drafted. Now, if he is used how the Niners use Kyle Juszczyk, he could very well justify that 3rd round selection and could have a very, very nice season in that offense. Because sometimes it's not all about sort of the numbers, although they are important. It's about the fit, and I think he fits well in what Matt LaFleur wants to do. If he uses him correctly, he'll be a very, very versatile and very good piece, and could be a matchup nightmare.
Have you still got Jimmy Graham? Have I made that up?
Jimmy Graham has gone to the Bears.
A
very weird deal. They gave him, I think it was 2 years, $16 million with a no trade clause. Now, believe me, there was no need for that clause. Nobody is trading for Jimmy.
It's one of them as well, though. Didn't they pick up a tight end really early as well in the draft? But
yeah, they've got the Bears have got like 6,000 tight ends on their roster right now. They did cut Trey Burton. But I think, they drafted Adam Shaheen really high a few years ago as well. So yeah, they've got a lot of tight ends.
Right, well, away from the Bears. Final question, another quick fire. I know you love your fantasy football, as a lot of us do. Who's taking the most fantasy points? Who's your number one? You might not be number one pick, but
I'm not sure because in the fantasy league that I run, I finished dead last this year last year after winning the lot the year before. So I, at the minute, have got the number one overall pick, but we're thinking to shake it up and do a dynasty league, which would mean... Oops, sorry, just dropped my pen. Do a dynasty league, which would mean it would be we randomise the picks. But, I mean, it wouldn't be the worst kept secret to say that I think Christian McCaffrey could be the top scorer in fantasy. Even if you take out quarterbacks, Mahomes will score a lot, but I think McCaffrey will be the highest scoring outfield player for sure, and would be worthy of the number one overall pick because he can run between the tackles. He's basically the Panthers' number one receiver as well.
Yeah, they do so much with him.
Dives,
he gets a
bucket
routes
load
like a
touchdowns.
receiver. They
so it wouldn't surprise me if
all
his
the
own runs.
he's the leading fantasy scorer